So now my computer is recording everything I say and do on the screen. Right now it looks like you're gazing into infinity and the void because it's recording itself. But this way I will have a copy of this presentation that I can post to social media and other locations. So welcome to Tech on a Budget, Getting Things Done with Open Source Software. I am your presenter, Aaron Smith. My presentation link, if you go to aaronbsmith.com, you'll find links to pretty much everywhere that I am on the internet these days, and it is the most recent thing that I posted to my Twitter account, my teaching Twitter account, which is linked at aaronbsmith.com. I will also be taking this recording and linking to it there, but also probably on the blog that I use for teaching stuff, which right now I really only update for when I'm giving presentations, so that works. And I've already mentioned that this is going to be placed online, and there'll be a slide like this at the end of the presentation where you can rate what I've done and say how horrible I was and how I didn't meet any of the objectives that I said I was going to do, but it's an awesome conference and you want to go again next year. Okay, so going through, first of all, what is open source? Who knows what open source is? No one here knew there'd be questions. Sorry. Okay, well basically open source is any program, whether web-based or app-based or whatever, or actually sometimes even hardware. There's open source hardware where it's not owned. People can share it, people can use it, people can change it without fear of getting in trouble for it. You all probably use an open source program already. Android is an open source operating system. Google maintains it, but anyone can run Android. There's a bunch of free Android emulators out there that you could install on Windows, so you could run a whole bunch of Android apps on Windows machines if you want to. And you can do that because it's not something that needs to be licensed. If you use Chrome, you're using open source. The root package behind Chrome is called Chromium. And let's see, if I click on this link, will this open up properly? Yes. So both Chrome, which is based off of Chromium, and Chrome OS for Chromebooks, Chromium OS, they're open source. You can make your own Chromebook if you want to, because the code for that is open source. Firefox, raise your hand if you've heard about Firefox. Yep, that's open source. There's a foundation that maintains the code, but everyone who works on it, for the most part, is a volunteer. There are some paid employees of the Firefox Foundation. They accept donations and have other means of gathering revenue to maintain their project. But some open source projects don't have a revenue stream because they don't need it. It's just some volunteer who's making the code themselves, but they put that out there for anyone to use. There's even this thing called Mastodon, which is essentially an open source Twitter. It doesn't link up with Twitter, but it's open source code that anyone can install on a server, and now you've got a social network. It's actually what I prefer over Twitter, but I'm not going to get into that. However, if you do want to play with Mastodon, follow me on Mastodon. My link is on aaronbsmith.com. All right, so this is the software that I intend to talk about. I'm not going to get through all this today, but I wanted to link all these in this presentation for people who might want to play with this in the near future. The two that I'm definitely going to be talking about are Audacity and OpenShot. Audacity is great for recording and editing audio, which is fantastic if you have students that don't want to just read a report to you or hand in a report to you. They could use Audacity to record some type of radio drama or something and hand that in to you instead. Or if you want to do something like a flipped classroom and you want to be able to provide material to the students outside of class for them to ingest and digest and understand, and then they come in ready to do the project with all that knowledge that they had to do for homework, Audacity and OpenShot are great for that because while Audacity does audio, OpenShot does video. So even if you can't install software onto devices in your room for your students to use, that's stuff that you could be using to create materials to share with your students. Inkscape is essentially Adobe Illustrator, but free. I use that a lot with my students. GNU IMP used to be called GIMP. They are working on changing the name. That is basically Photoshop, but free. Krita or Krita, I've yet to figure out how to pronounce that. That is a drawing program where you could draw with a mouse, but most people will actually hook a tablet up to their computer and use that for digital drawing. Microsoft Word, there's a free version called LibreOffice. I have not used Microsoft Office in about a decade because I don't need to. I'm either using Google Docs and all the wonderful things that are built into Google, or I'm using LibreOffice for everything else. VLC Media Player is wonderful because it will open any media file that exists for the most part. If I want to view a video file that I can't open it in anything else, I will open it in VLC Media Player. It'll work. Audio files, I can make playlists in it. I can open images. It opens everything. Open Broadcaster, I already talked about that. That's what I'm using to record my screen right now, including where I mess up saying the right version of the word record. And, this little thing down here at the bottom. So there's stuff going on with Minecraft right now and Minecraft EDU and all that cool stuff, but what if you have a computer set up where you can't run the current version of Minecraft EDU? Well, there is something called Minetest, which when students look at it, the first thing they say is that's Minecraft, but it's open source. It's 100% free. So I might have used that in my classroom before as well. All right, so let's get into this. I jumped ahead. We're going to start with Audacity. Audacity is one of the open source programs that I've been using longer than anything else. This is a wonderful program for recording audio. One problem that my students frequently encounter when using Audacity is if they want to use a specific microphone, like they plugged a headset microphone in or they're using one of our snowball mics that we have in my computer lab, if you open Audacity first and then plug the mic in, it won't know the mic is there. If you plug the mic in first and then open Audacity, that's when it checks to see if there's a mic. That is really the only glitch I've ever had with Audacity. Otherwise, if I want to record something, go ahead and press the record button. I start talking, and you can see all these little blue squiggly lines saying, oh, by the way, you're talking now. Wonderful. And now I'm just being silly because I'm playing with a microphone, which 99 times out of 100, that's what students will do too. Okay? But wait, there's more, because that's really simple. What if there's a lot of background noise going on? Because, by the way, you're probably not going to be able to get your classroom to be completely quiet if you're recording in the classroom. Or what if you're recording something at home to share with your students and your air conditioner is going on, or your heater's going on, or there's a cat meowing in the background, whatever. Well, we can select a bit of audio. I'm going to pretend that this right here is background noise. I'm talking, that's kind of background noise according to my 8th graders. Go up to Effects and go down to a thing called Noise Reduction. And I'm going to say Get Noise Profile. It's going to select this area that I've selected. It's going to say, okay, so that's noise, right? Okay. Well, it hasn't done anything yet because I haven't told you the next thing. Now I'm going to select the whole thing just by clicking over here. Go up to Effect, go down to Noise Reduction again. I'm not going to click Get Noise Profile. I've already done that. I can play with these settings over here to make it remove more noise or less noise. I can hit preview to make sure it's not removing so much that I sound like a robot. I'm going to skip all that. I'm just going to press OK and watch what happens to the squigglies. There's an official word for it, but I refuse to call it that. I'm going to call them the blue squigglies. Did they all get smaller? It removed all the audio that sounded like that, which is really slick. Now, there's a lot of blank spaces in there. I was stopping and starting again. Normally, if you're having conversation, there will be pauses. Well, who wants to listen to pauses in a recording? That starts to drag out. It starts to get boring. So this entire clip is still selected. Go up to Effect again. And there's this wonderful little thing down here called Truncate Silence. I can play with these settings if I want to. I can set the threshold for how loud a bit of background noise can be before it actually counts as something that isn't silent. I click OK. It got rid of all the spots where I was pausing. Now my recording is much shorter, and I assure you, my students don't want to listen to long recordings by me. I like the sound of my own voice. Your results may vary. So, to take this file and turn it into something that I can share with my students, either on my Google site or another website or a podcast host, because there's plenty of free ones out there, for an example, go to File, Export. Export as MP3. It's going to ask me to give it a name. I'm not going to bother with that right now. I'm just going to tell it to put it at my desktop. Save. This is fancy stuff that you don't necessarily have to worry about, but if you want to put a lot of metadata in it for who made it and what number it is and what album it is, you can play with these features. Click OK. And now there is an MP3 file on my desktop. If I go to my desktop, or if I open this up, it'll start playing that horrible recording I just made, which I'm not going to play for you because you just heard it. But that would be a file that I can put anywhere. Questions on Audacity? Want to see another trick I can do with it? Tough room. Okay, so there's this great resource called the YouTube Audio Library, which this presentation is not actually about, but it has a lot of music and sound effects on there that are free to use. Some of them do require you to cite your source specifically, but others are, you can use them without even having to cite your sources. That's what all this audio, all these folders are for. A YouTube Audio Library. If you are logged into YouTube, I'll go and show you actually, just because, oh, that's the wrong window. Now, I bookmarked it because I use it so much. But it's youtube.com/audio library, all one word. And you've got free music that is sortable by mood, by instrument, by duration, by attribution. So if you want to use stuff where attribution is not required, that's what I tend to use because just in case my students mess up, I don't want to get sued. Or attribution required, they're Creative Commons licensed, so they're still free to use. You just have to cite your sources. But if I click on a song that I want to use, oh, look, there's the source. There's a citation right there for me already. I just have to copy paste that into whatever media I'm presenting this audio in. And then I've done my due diligence. I don't need to type up stuff for it. I still require my students to cite their sources for the stuff where attribution is not required because my story to them is, well, how do I know that you were using it with permission? Tell me where you got it. But with that said, I have Audacity open. I have my downloaded songs open. I can drag this over to here. And I've imported music, and I can change the volume of this so it doesn't overload anything. I can select areas that I don't want to be included, and then just press backspace or delete to remove them. I can use this tool over here to drag things around and position them better. So now I'm going to have an intro bit of music, and then maybe I want the volume to go down in the middle. So I'm going to use this tool up here, and I'm going to adjust this so that it gets a little softer. And then gets loud again. All stuff you can do with Audacity, and I'm giving you the Cliff Notes version. There's so much more you can do with this. This is a very powerful program that I simply love using, and my students use it when they are creating audio projects as well. So, if there are any questions about Audacity, all right, and let's move on to the next really cool program that I really want to show you today. No, let's not save this. Let's open up OpenShot. OpenShot is another program that I really enjoy playing with. This is video editing, and there's so much we can do with this. Now, some computers already have built-in video editors. If you have a Mac, you probably have iMovie installed on it, and iMovie works. I'm not going to knock iMovie. This program is more powerful than iMovie in some regards, and in addition to that, Windows 10 doesn't really have a built-in video editor anymore. There was Windows Movie Maker. They stopped production on that a long time ago. I kind of miss it because at least we had a default, but now it's not there anymore. This will run on pretty much anything other than a Chromebook or a phone. So let's import some stuff. As luck would have it, I went and got some videos. So let's go ahead and now this is also including the recording I'm making right now. So let's not import the recording that I'm making because that would be weird. import more files. Let's bring in this one. And let's bring in this recording that I made in advance. All right, so this is what's called a non-linear editor. Actually, let's change this view to be simpler because there we go. It's non-linear because video editors like iMovie, when you drag your clips in, you've got one timeline for all of your audio, for all your video clips. It doesn't really do layering unless you're using one of their templates. So they're all in one line, and if you delete something, everything just sort of compresses together so there's no empty space. But for this, I can have spaces in between. I can have them be layered one on top of another. I can have, like this recording of a campfire be playing, if I can drag this over, in front of this particular recording of a blue sky. By the way, all these clips are copyright-free images that I got, well, not images, videos that I got off of Archive.org. Archive.org is also a great resource for finding all kinds of stuff. Some of the stuff on there does have license requirements. It's frequently under a Creative Commons license, but I specifically picked things that are copyright-free for the sake of this presentation. Except for this stupid clip of me saying blah, blah, blah. That is fully copyrighted. You may not use that without permission. I will, no, that's horrible. So this has a lot of features that we can expect from your typical video editor. If I right-click on a clip, I have ways of having it fade in and out. I can add transitions between them by clicking where it says transitions. And I have all these things that I can drag in. Don't ever use these transitions. They are horrible. But I feel that way about transitions in general. This is me being a media arts teacher that's getting on a soapbox right now. So full disclosure, this is a sore point for me. Most times that we are watching any video media and they move from one clip to another, there is no transition because they don't need one. If you see a transition, it'll be because they really want to tell everyone who's watching it, hey, look, we are changing scenes now. That is why we're fading out. That is why we are dissolving from one thing to another. That's why in a Broadway production they close the curtain or dim the lights and then raise them back up again. Students, in particular, when they see they have all these transitions, will use a different transition between each clip. And they will double or triple the amount of time they're taking to get that project done. So I actually don't tend to use transitions, but if you choose to use transitions, I can speak properly. I am a presenter. I can speak properly. Then they're there for you. Effects, those I play with more. These are really useful. So I am going to go and change my view now. I am going to go from view up to views, go down to advanced view, because I'm going to be playing with stuff over here in the properties. So I've got this campfire picture here, right? Most of that image is black. It's a solid color. Doesn't matter what color it is, it's a solid color. That's useful to me. Because if I look over here at my effects, there's this one little effect that it's in iMovie, but you got to really look for it. Chroma key. Who knows what chroma key does?
Is it like green screen?
It is exactly like green screen, except it doesn't have to be green. A lot of places will use a chroma key blue as well. But the fancier editors don't care what color it is, so long as it's a solid color. So I can take this chroma key effect, I can drag this over to this clip, and if this is going to not work, this is the time for it to not work because I have an audience. Oh, now there's a tiny little C there. If I click on that tiny little C, my properties show up over here, and I can pick a key color. I am going to, I'm actually going to drag this all the way over to the beginning. I'm going to click on this key color thing here, and I can pick a color off of this, but the more powerful feature on here is I can pick any color on my screen. So now I got a little crosshair. I'm going to go over, I'm going to click on black, click OK. Now, the fuzz setting on here, you can see that some of it's gone away, but some of it is still sort of showing up there. I can increase the fuzz value. That removes more of it. So now if I hit play, I've got the fire appearing in the foreground and the clouds appearing in the background. Now, this could be incredibly useful if you have something like, bulletin board paper. That's a solid color that you hang up on a wall in your room. Make sure it's well lit so there's no shadows on it, and have a student in front of it giving a report about something and record them. And then they could use some type of slide presentation or even a still photo and put that in the background. And you can do all this in this program. Now, I tend to not use chroma key a lot because for what I use OpenShot for, I don't tend to need it. But it's cool that that is a feature in there because not every program that supports video editing supports chroma key unless you're paying extra money for it. So I think that's pretty darn cool. What I tend to use this for is primarily my students creating videos for various projects where they are working on storytelling. But in addition, if I'm recording a how-to video, here's how to do X, Y, Z. Either I point a camera at myself to show some type of technique, or I'm using a screen recorder like OBS, Open Broadcaster. Well, I've screwed up several times during this presentation where I just said the wrong word. No one needs to know I did that except the people in this room. I can use OpenShot to go to that particular part of the presentation and just trim that out. I can do whatever I want with that. I've got these little scissors right here for the razor tool. Because back in the day when you were editing film, you didn't use a computer. You actually had a straight edge razor that you cut the actual film with. I remember those days. I'm old. All right. I also remember film cameras and dark rooms, and it's incredible stuff to play with. So I can use this razor tool, and I can go over and I can click on this clip here. And now that's 2 clips. I have to click on the scissors again because otherwise I still have the razor tool selected. And then I go to click to select a clip and I just delete the clip or and I cut it into more pieces. So now I can drag. Did I undo that? No, I didn't. Okay, so now I've got the 2 clips. I got the smaller one here and the larger one here where maybe I didn't want all this. So I'm going to just get rid of that by pressing delete. I do have a scale feature here where if I want to do fine-tuning stuff, I can turn down my scaling so I can get to the exact second where I want to make a cut. Or if I am editing a very large video and I want to get a grand scope of things, I can drag this over and see a larger view of everything. By default, this timer is going up to about 2 hours of content. I have edited 2-hour videos on this. If you're making a 2-hour video for your students, I recommend cutting it into pieces. Just saying. Typically, the videos that I make for students to view are less than 5 minutes long. I never require my own students to make more than a 5-minute video because for the countywide film festival, which is super awesome that we have a countywide film festival, the longest entry that will be allowed is 5 minutes. So I have them work towards that goal. That, and if it's a 5-minute video or less, they can make more videos, and we learn by doing so. The more they do, the more they're learning. Questions on OpenShot? Okay, and again, this is software that you can import not just video into, you can import still images into. I have had students make things in Google Slides for whatever reason, and then export those as PNG files or JPEG files and pull them into OpenShot. Sometimes if they couldn't get a title to look just the way they wanted using the title editor that's built into OpenShot or any other video editor they might be using. Some of them edit video on their phones, and I don't stop them because there's more than one road that leads to Rome. I don't grade on, well, congratulations, you used this app. I grade on, congratulations, you made this work of art. Then I have them use another program like Google Slides or whatever to make their title card, to make their credits, to make anything else that they want to superimpose on top of anything here. And they import that in. You can import audio just as well. You can have it fade in and fade out. Okay, but if there are no questions, I will close this. I'm not going to save. Goodbye, masterpiece. All right, and back to my presentation. Talk about OpenShot. So bonus round. Nothing on this computer right now costs me any money. This computer is running Linux. It's a free operating system. I have 11-year-old computers in my room. They were not state-of-the-art when we bought them. Imagine those trying to run Windows 10. Yep, the running is an optional word when we're talking about 11-year-old computers and Windows 10. It can sort of be done. You will not appreciate the experience other than as a learning exercise in patience and frustration. So I got permission from my principal to install Linux on them, and they actually run pretty well. They run better than they did when they were running Windows XP. Again, that's a low bar, but never mind about that. So right now, my computer is running a version of Linux called Debian. It's a free download. You can even, the reason why it says live USB, you can install it on a USB drive. You can install it on a CD or DVD. Put that in your computer, boot from that, and without changing anything on your hard drive, so you're not messing with any of the data that's already on there, you could be playing with a totally different operating system. I have used that to help get data off of computers that were crashing, where they couldn't boot themselves, so I booted them off of something else, and I could still access the hard drive to get things off of it. Most people who start off using Linux start with a version of Linux called Ubuntu, which has very easy to follow instructions for how to make a live booting CD or DVD or USB drive. So that is kind of like, I hate to use the term gateway drug, but it's kind of the gateway to using Linux. And also, who's heard about the Raspberry Pi? No hands. Oh, the Raspberry Pi is a glorious bit of hardware. The Raspberry Pi is this little thing right here. That's a computer. That costs about $55. You can get them for less than that. The most powerful Raspberry Pi costs $55. I've actually got one here that I brought. It's like the cooking shows. And here's one I already made. Let me turn the lights on so you can actually see how. Oh, wonderful. Thank you. That's a computer. This has 4 gigabytes of RAM on it. This is running a version of Linux. I can hook this up to the monitors in my building. I can hook this up to the keyboard and mouse. It's got USB here. If I want to be fancy and use Bluetooth, this has Bluetooth built in. It's got wireless built in. I tend to hook it up with a wired connection because, not that you would notice, but wireless is slightly slower than wired. And my students are using these, not right now because it's a Saturday, but every day my students are using these in my classroom. I use a donor's choose to get these. But if you want to get these with any money you might have available to you in the school, there is a company called SparkFun that is on the vendor list, and they sell Raspberry Pis. Also, I have gotten mixed signals about Best Buy. Some people have been able to order stuff off of Best Buy because it's on the vendor list, and some people have been told no, it's not. But Best Buy sells a kit for Raspberry Pi. It's made by a company called CanaKit. They're out of Canada, so that's why it's CanaKit. And the kit is just over $100 for the 4 gigabyte model, but it comes with the case. It comes with the memory card. This is the hard drive. The same thing that you put in your phone to extend the memory if you have a good phone that allows you to extend the memory. Not that I'm hating on people who use iOS. I'm sorry that you can't extend the memory in your phones. I almost got a Pixel phone for my new phone, but then I saw that I couldn't extend the memory in that either. So I was like, nope. Because I tend to store lots of things on my phone.
Yeah, but Pixel phone you get unlimited Google Drive.
You know what? That's fantastic. But as teachers in Prince George's County Public Schools, we already have that.
Yeah, but that's all accessible to the school system.
Well, what do you think I use my phone for mostly? But yeah, because I have no life outside of school. But also, that means that I'm using my data plan anytime that I'm filling stuff up, unless I can find myself some Wi-Fi wherever I happen to be. So I want to store stuff locally and not have to wait for something to go. So I'm not saying that my method of doing things has to be your method of doing things. Like I said, there's many roads that lead to Rome. I'm not going to hate. But me personally, I want to be able to put that in a phone, and that is the entire hard drive for this. The kit comes with a 16 gigabyte one. Or if you're buying not the kit and you got a bunch of these lying around already, that's free. So that is another cool thing. We have how much more time do we have? I think we're close to finishing, 9:15. So we got a little more than 5 minutes. I can talk about other bits of software that I have mentioned on here, or I can answer any questions. Okay. Well, if you end up with any questions later where you think of something like right as you are like getting in your car to drive home and you're like, oh man, I just thought of something. You know what? My Twitter handle is The Art Guy because I used to be a visual arts teacher. That is my background. For many years, had a budget of 50 cents per student when I was teaching visual arts. So there were a lot of lessons where here's a lesson where I didn't pay for any of this material. It's all recycled stuff that parents donated. That's kind of how I got into open source software because it's free and costs nothing. And my budget right now with a computer lab is not much more than 50 cents per student because it is what it is. So you can ask questions on Twitter, or my email address is aaron.smith@pgcps.org. And if there are no additional questions, well, congratulations, you get to get a front seat at the keynote because that's the next thing. All right, let's take you to the last slide. Okay, oh, that's looking weird. All right, so bottom line, if you go to, let's see if I can go to the actual presentation and edit that so that looks readable. Because that did not look readable. How does that happen? What if I just take this thing and move that away? Okay, so puwt2019.sched.com. There is a session evaluation link there, or you could, if you are one of those fancy people like me who has a QR code reader, you can scan this QR code right here, and it'll also take you there, so you can evaluate my session and tell me how horrible I did or how great I did, and give that feedback, and then we can go to the keynote. I am going to stop the recording.